Jason from Amagansett Press has made the local news in Florida. Guys, thank you for joining this premiere. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification icon, and if you like this video, give that like button some love, and let's get into this. All right, I wanted to share this with you because Jason from Amagansett Press has made the local news. This is from WMBB News 13 in Florida. Check this out. It's pretty interesting. They actually did a pretty good job on this.
YouTuber arrested by Bay County Sheriff's deputies last week when videotaping outside of a UPS facility says that he plans to file a lawsuit. Jason Gutterman's lawyers claim that he was exercising his First Amendment rights and his arrest was unconstitutional. As News 13's Anna Hoffman tells us, Gutterman says he's only trying to protect the rights afforded to everyone by the U.S. Constitution.
One seemingly small incident last week in Lynn Haven is shaping up to be a legal battle over First Amendment rights.
It has been the law that you can film on a public sidewalk for decades. Everybody knows that, except apparently these officers.
On November 9th, YouTube.
That's actually a really good point. This seems so basic. And if cops are going to miss something this basic, i.e. the First Amendment right to freedom of press and all the Supreme Court decisions that say, yeah, that's a constitutionally protected activity. If the cops are going to miss this, what else are they missing? We know. We got a pretty good idea because they're constantly trampling rights left and right. No pun intended. And it amazes me that something so rudimentary, something so elementary is missed by those people who are claiming to be protecting and serving and upholding and safeguarding your constitutionally protected rights as they're trampling the very clear rights every single one of us has. That's why I enjoy what Jason and what a lot of other people do out there, is because it almost becomes, in a society that's intolerant of people exercising their rights, it almost becomes an irritant. And so it's a good and bad thing for society. They view it as a bad thing because they don't want some guy on a sidewalk recording, even though you have the perfect constitutional right to do that. So when I see Jason or his son or anybody going out there and exercising their constitutional right, they're not just exercising their rights for them. They're actually exercising their rights for the rest of us, even people who don't have any desire to exercise their rights like this. And I like what Jason says all the time. Rights are like muscles. If you don't use them, if you don't exercise them, if you don't apply stress to them every once in a while, they atrophy, they go away. Same thing with our rights. If we don't exercise our rights, we will lose our rights. There's a historical precedent for that as well.
YouTuber Jason Gutterman and his son stood outside this Lynn Haven UPS facility shooting video for what he called a project.
So the story about UPS was, how was UPS going to react to somebody filming on the sidewalk outside of their facility? It's a public interest story.
But that original project has morphed into something else.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Trot Golfer says in the room, AP Amagansett Press did tell the officers what he was doing. Actually, he told them it was like 3 or 4 times. Yeah, so the news got that wrong. Good catch. I did miss that.
After UPS workers complained, Bay County Sheriff's deputies showed up. They asked Gutterman what he was doing, but he refused to answer.
Apparently, law enforcement didn't like that explanation and were dissatisfied when he didn't provide identification to them.
Quoting a Florida statute that prohibits people from being within 500 feet of a school and within an hour of dismissal without a valid reason, deputies arrested Gutterman. Gutterman's attorney, Kevin Alvarez, claims that statute is no longer constitutional.
Engaging in journalistic activity is a permissible purpose. I think this is now an attempt by the sheriff to try to justify violating somebody's constitutional right by trying to dog whistle it's for the children.
A judge
That was well said. Because you remember when that one officer came, the commanding officer came, he's like, hey, you're 500 feet from a school. We're just, basically, the idea was, we're just here to protect the children. So we're going to trample your rights so we can protect your children. And I like what Albert Camus said back in, I think it was like early 1900s. He said, the welfare of the people in particular has always been the alibi of tyrants. Hey, this is for your good. This is for the general public, for the general welfare. we're here to take away your rights because that's going to protect everybody else. It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. So the welfare of the people, the proclamation of the welfare of the people has always been the alibi of tyrants. It's like, oh, it's necessary that we do this. That's why necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedoms. It's the argument of tyrants, of course. And it's the creed of slaves. The tyrants want to make the argument of necessity because they come off looking like the good guys as they're trampling your rights and being the bad guys.
Missed Gutterman's charges last Friday. He's now considering a lawsuit against BCSO. This is nothing new to Gutterman, who stages videos like this all over the country for his YouTube channel. However, Alvarez claims Gutterman doesn't do it for baiting or compensation.
This is trying to make positive change, trying to educate those about the First Amendment, and trying to make sure that people don't violate.
Gutterman has only sued.
And about sensitizing people to the fact that, hey, by the way, did you guys know that you have rights? And if you don't exercise your rights, you will lose them. And I understand it's off-putting to some people. It's like, why didn't you just tell the guy you're just out there recording and you're exercising your First Amendment rights? It kind of becomes an irritant to the public. And the way I like to look at it is one of the great irritants in life produces something that's fantastic and that's magnificent. When a grain of sand goes inside an oyster, it becomes an irritant, and the oyster's body, or whatever you want to call it, forms all this mucus, this mucosal layer around this irritant, this grain of sand, and it starts hardening and hardening and hardening, and that's how you get a pearl. A pearl is wrought in the crucible of irritation. So while this may be irritating to some, it's absolutely vital and necessary if you want to produce something fantastic. And the fantastic thing you want to produce, and I haven't talked to Jason about this, but I can only imagine his mentality and his approach toward this is, hey, I want to sensitize and strengthen society, just like you would strengthen yourself when you go to the gym. When you introduce resistance to your arms, let's say you're doing arm curls, what are you doing? You're actually strengthening your body. Your bone density goes up, your muscle tissue increases, your strength increases, and we could all use a little bit more strength in this life. So it's the same thing with an oyster. That little grain of sand becomes an irritant. The oyster tries to protect itself from that irritant, and it results in something actually magnificent and beautiful. And the magnificent and beautiful thing that we need in society today is people sensitized to the fact that, hey, we have rights. We're going to stand on their rights, and ain't nobody going to take away our rights for any frickin' reason, including public safety and security and the protection of the children.
One other agency in the past. He says he thinks he deserves an apology. In Bay County, Anna Hoffman, News 13, Panhandle Strong.
Bay County Sheriff's officials issued a statement over the weekend but would not comment today. You can read that statement on our website, mypanhandle.com.
I'm going to go ahead and look that up. Let's see, mypanhandle.com. All right, so here's this statement prepared by R. Corley from the Bay County Sheriff's Office. It says on November 9th, 2021 at about 2:45 p.m., the Bay County Sheriff's Office received a call from an employee of UPS located on Minnesota Avenue in Lynn Haven. Two schools are also located on Minnesota Avenue, Mosley High School and New Horizons Learning Center. Of course, they had to add that in there. The caller stated there were two men on the sidewalk outside the UPS facility videotaping. Concerned, the caller had tried to talk to the man to find out why they were there, but the two men refused to explain, which they can do. You're free to refuse and not engage in a conversation you don't want to be a part of. A BCSO deputy at a nearby school, concerned about the presence of two men near two schools at dismissal time, they added it in there again. They're trying to make Jason and Ben look as bad as possible. They were near two schools. We're out there to protect the children. That's why we arrived. That's why we made the arrest. To keep your kids safe. Approached the two men. The two men were not forthcoming with any information to satisfy the concerns the deputy had, and a supervisor was called to the scene. Based on the lack of information from the two men, the fact there were two schools nearby, and that this is the third time, and that the students had just been dismissed and were walking through the area, the deputies arrested one of the men based on Florida Statute, that 810.0975, which states, and we're not going to read this whole thing right here. because it's amazing that they did that, because this statute was actually declared unconstitutional, and the law enforcement officers in that area were basically given a cease and desist order to tell them not to enforce this statute. Based upon this statute, deputies arrested Jason Gutterman. To their shame, they arrested Jason Gutterman. Upon first appearance before a judge, charges against Gutterman were dropped. Questions have arisen about this arrest, which should be answered. In 2008, this statute was ruled in a case in South Florida as unconstitutionally vague. And yet, in 2013, the problems identified within the statute were corrected by the Florida legislature, and it remains a viable part of Florida State Statute. So they went ahead and arrested him anyway, based on this statute? This is very incriminating. This is an incriminating statement. It's like our officers don't know what the hell they're doing. They're out there enforcing statutes that have been declared unconstitutional. Way to go, officers. They're not serving and protecting, they're harassing and collecting. In the times in which we live, work, and send children to school, law enforcement must navigate challenges with a respect for constitutional rights, which they didn't do right there, and a laser-like commitment to protect the vulnerable. In this case, it was the children attending two schools just across the street from the two men whose simple cooperation could have quickly ended this incident. The reason we arrested you basically is because you didn't cooperate, and we have to pretend that we're out there protecting kids. BCSO deputies provided ample opportunity for the men to ease the concerns deputies had about why they were in the school safety zone. Despite historical questions about Florida Statute 810.0975, BCSO deputies decided to err on the side of caution. They erred on the side of tyranny. We decided to err on the side of despotism, err on the side of caution, and remove Gutterman from the school safety zone. They believed it was more important to protect the students from potential harm than it was to protect their reputations from any potential damage they would face on social media. What about the Constitution? Aren't the kids going to school to learn what freedom's all about? No, they're not. Why? Because it's a 15,000-hour government indoctrination program intended to get you to let go of your rights and just trust and obey the authorities. Florida State Statute 810 is a chargeable criminal offense as such. It's a chargeable criminal offense even though it was declared unconstitutionally vague? Could you explain that, please? Bay County Sheriff's Office? As such, the Bay County Sheriff's Office could choose to pursue this charge against Gutterman, but has decided not to do so. They are hunkering down, man. They are digging in. They are fortifying their position. Talk about double and triple down against unconstitutional nonsense. Holy cow. This is rich. Rich in tyranny. The Bay County Sheriff's Office remains committed to constitutional policing as we commit unconstitutional acts of criminal activity and protecting the rights of the people we serve. Our deputies have received specialized training to ensure they protect constitutional rights. So they've received specialized training, neglected to perform their duties under the Constitution, and chose to enforce an unconstitutionally vague statute that they were instructed not to enforce. Okay. To protect constitutional rights in light of this incident, we will be adding to our training curriculum. Wow, that's a positive thing. So look what Jason just actually performed a public service for the Bay County Sheriff's Office over there. These guys don't care. They don't care. They got caught and they don't care. They're still using excuses. Instead of just making this a 2-sentence or maybe just we'll give them 2 paragraphs. Instead of using 2 paragraphs and going, you know what? We blew it. We violated this guy's First Amendment right to be on a public sidewalk and recording in a public place. We totally blew it. We have no excuse. They should have never mentioned the schools. They should have never mentioned children being dismissed and walking on the sidewalk. They should have never mentioned, if they were going to mention Section 810, they should have said, to our shame, we continued to implement a statute that was clearly identified as unconstitutionally vague. We're eating crow here. It's our fault. We apologize. Nope. They're so pompous and they're so egotistical and narcissistic that they can't come off it and say, hey, we were totally wrong. Especially when they say Florida Statute 810 is a chargeable criminal offense. Unconstitutional. I'm telling you what, it's read my lips. It's unconstitutional. Not gonna enforce that unless you're Bay County Sheriff's Office. As such, the Bay County Sheriff's Office could choose to pursue this charge against Gutterman unconstitutionally. Oh, what a bunch of snakes, man. What a bunch of snakes. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to Amagansett Press. Subscribe to his son, Ben, at Watching the Watchmen. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, hit the bell notification icon. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it and share it with everybody you know. And, man, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this premiere. Before you leave, make sure you hit that like button right down there if you like the video. If you didn't like the video, of course, hit the dislike button. But if you did like it, give it a like. Share this video with everybody you know everywhere you can so we can combat those dastardly algorithms. I'll see you guys in the next video.